Oye Beltalowda. Welcome friends to another Expanse video, a dive into the Belters, their origins, their lives, the OPA and Ceres and Eros stations, and how they are seen by the other powers in the Expanse universe. Let's get straight into it. The Belters are people born in the asteroid belt or the moons of the outer planets. Going back to the first Belters, they were miners and lived out of their ships. They would sustain themselves on a year's worth of food reserves. Things changed for them with the creation of the Epstein drive. It's a fusion drive that has been modified and allowed humanity to go beyond the inner planets and colonize the asteroid belts. This opened up the belts for humans so they could start families and grow up in the void. This has led to changes in the belters' bodies, and a less kind name for them that an earther might use is skinnies. The mining they do is dangerous. A large number of belters have accidents and need to replace damaged or even destroyed limbs with prosthetic ones. On the inner planets they can regrow missing limbs, but for a belter, the prosthetics are an affordable replacement. Most belters' lives are lived from small apartments that are called holes, often because they are just that, literally. Recessed lights make it easier to see in the nice areas, and scents are put into the air to drown out the scent of sealant and recycled air. Larger neighbourhoods are separated by corridors, but also linked to air systems and large metal ducts that can collect fungi if they are not cleaned regularly. Living so close to each other, almost on top of each other, has led to a large sense of community amongst the belters. It comes out as a combination of both pride and self-reliance. They travel between these areas and work via transport tubes. In the belt, an asteroid is not a place for human life, and there is not a way to terraform them like on Mars. Every breath a belter takes into their lungs has gone through an air filter and is shared with many others in tight quarters. Keeping the filters clean and the water purifiers going is a community task. Belters look out for each other as a matter of habit and need. When one fails at their task or outright screws another, it is dealt with by the community. If something breaks, a belter fixes it. Belters are needed by the others, but not wanted. Inners who drink belter liquor, buy belter metal, and visit belter whorehouses will give less back. Earth and Mars both are tied to the belt by their reliance on minerals for the very technology they won't share, and despite how essential the belters are, they're not allowed self-governance. Food is sold to Earth and Mars before the belters. Earth corporations do things on the cheap or push equipment till it breaks, making things dangerous. No wonder so many belters are hurt on the job. The basics of food and water are controlled by the corporations and limited when things are hard. The anatomy of a belter comes with strengths and weaknesses. They will have brittle bones from being born in low gravity and will not live for long under Earth's gravity, but they can recover faster than an earther in high G. Belter women struggle to give birth in low gravity. This affects the mother's health and that of the baby. It makes labour longer and painful, so when they can, belter women have their children on Ceres Station, which reduces the danger. Ganymede 2 is also popular as there are a lot of medical professionals there to help the expectant mothers. To help them move around with their altered bodies, you can get hormone treatments or trips when you can to higher gravity environments. For belters who can't afford to take them, you can grow up to 7.5 feet tall, and your bones will be stretched so they are thin and brittle. Even those treated with hormones do not address all physical concerns, as a belter will typically be thin and less muscled than someone from Earth or Mars. These types of belters can get a lot of physical ailments and will not be able to tolerate Earth's gravity unless they are in liquid-filled buoyancy tanks. The smallest settlements in the belt are virtually 0 G, and if you live there, you will not be able to return to gravity for the rest of your short lives. Many kids also suffer brain damage due to hypoxia. This comes from air filters that have not been cleaned properly. Because nearly all food must come from Earth or Mars or the belt of greenhouses located on Ganymede and Europa, many suffer from malnutrition. All water in the belt is either heavily recycled or comes from enormous chunks of ice brought by haulers from the rest of the belt, so becoming dehydrated can be a constant worry. Belters also separate themselves with the language they speak. Belter Creole is a patois of the original languages the Belter settlers spoke. Non-Belters find it hard to follow, and there are also physical gestures in this too that are not understood by the people from the inner planets. These came about as non-verbal signals are needed when you spacewalk. The Belter's own name for the language is Lang Belter. When humans expanded into our solar system, people from Earth and Mars lived and worked together, and so a common language developed so they could speak to each other. So it's mainly English words, but it has an influence from German, Chinese, Indic, Slavic, etc. Eros and Ceres stations have been spun up so that they generate their own gravity, and some Belters choose to live there. Eros station is close to the Belters, as it was one of the first sites of human colonization, and at the start of the first book has 1.5 million people on board. And also it was special as it had been the birthplace of the belt, and for different disciplines from ether haulers to gas harvesters and ships that are prospecting, it was an important place for humanity during the first generation to go out to the stars. Now there was competition. Ceres has newer docks, carried more people, and had an industrial bent, and the commerce of shipping, whilst Eros was a place for shipbuilding and repairing. If you docked at Ceres and you docked for a long time, you lost money as fees were built that way. At Eros, a ship could be there for weeks or months without issue. Eros was also the place if you wanted to give shore leave so the crew had time away from each other, and with the lower docking fees, the station took more out of your pocket with casinos and brothels. Ceres Station was one of the first places humanity colonized amongst the outer planets. Its popularity means it has a population of 6 million permanent people living there and 1 million travelling through it. It is also home to around 1,000 ships coming and going each day. Now we will touch on the Outer Planets Alliance, the OPA. It's a lot of groups loosely linked or putting themselves under a broad ideology, a system of ideas and ideals. They started as a labour union or group to influence decisions around the Belters and in conflict with the other system powers. They have cells in the 2 main stations we just went over and other places. They are terrorists to some and a political movement depending whose side you are on, with no central command structure and with many groups who put themselves under its umbrella. Both sides of the opinion can apply. The largest known faction is under Fred Johnson, and it has managed to be officially recognized by Mars and Earth. Now friends, I turn this over to you. Is there anything you would add to this video about the Belters? Who do you sympathize with in the books or show? Have you joined a faction of the OPA? Comment down below.